question is for both of you. What was the meanest thing that ever got said to you?
The meanest thing that I have ever said to me was, you're black, you'll achieve nothing. March this year, I graduated from university as a social worker. I did it. I read my 4 kids. I did it. I'm rearing my 5 grandkids. I did it. I run 12 programs in the school in around Canberra, and I did it. And for this little black duck that didn't achieve anything, well, look at me now. And that's what I say to them. Education, kids, get an education. Show them wrong, stay strong, and it empowers you. Knowledge is empowerment, and I say to you, stay strong. Don't let anyone push you off the track. Always. When I was going through a bad time with my grannies, I spoke to the schools, and the only stability what we had was school. And I tell you what, mate, the school pulled us through it. They pulled my kids through it. 2 were married today. They can tell you the story if you want to hear it later on. My 3 little grannies are thriving with education. I come through social work with distinctions. I left school when I was 14, and that's what keeps me planted. So look, if that's the only thing you're leaving with today, don't walk away. See it to the end, finish it to the end, and that'll be the biggest achievement that you'll ever do.
Yeah, mine's closely linked to that. It's denial of identity. Being told I'm not black. Being told that I'll still not amount to anything even though I'm not black. And you just can't stop fighting against that. You can't stop pushing. If people are going to be denouncing who I am based on that, I'm going to make them work for it. I'm going to be better than the person next to me. And then they're going to have to step forward and go, no, it's about your heritage. You can't do this anymore. It's about pushing back. But yeah, there's a lot of anger in the community about some of the things we go through, but yeah, there's lessons to be learned.
Now, before I go to the next anonymous question, are there any questions from the floor? Did you bring it up?
He got his list.
Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
If you just hold on one sec.
So what is it like to be an Aboriginal person?
Good question. What is it like to be an Aboriginal person?
Awesome. Awesome. Deadly. I stand black, proud and deadly, you know? And I do what I do so you people can see how deadly it is, how awesome it is. You know, I suffered racism, it paralyses you, it disempowers you if you let it. But it's the best. It's the best. And our culture, we was taught a different way than what you mob was taught. I try to teach my boys the way I was taught. But with iPads and mobile phones, I struggle with that a bit. I used to send somebody a message to say we was here, but now we're going to start going back to how it used to be with mine. But it's just the best. So when you see one of us mob, ask us, what was it like? The good things about it. You know, we got a culture. Ours is our cultural art, not pies and olden cars, and we have got a heritage. We have got a culture. We have got a sense of belonging. If you want to be a part of it, it's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Despite all the stories, wouldn't have it any other way. You're right. It's a fantastic culture. It's a fantastic history. It's old. It's deep. It sings to you. Go back. Been here for a couple of ice ages. There was megafauna. There was saber-toothed marsupials running around. We don't get credit for getting rid of those things, and we should. It used to be giant kangaroos, not just the big 6-foot red, even bigger than 8-foot tall kangaroos. Imagine what they'd do to your car. So yeah, no, it's a proud history, and it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of talking, and we're now called sometimes the first Australians, and which means you guys joined us.
Next question. Why do Indigenous students get special treatment in schools? For example, study centres or scholarships?
Those resources, those rooms serve a very specific purpose. They do provide a meeting place for us, a safe place. They're also a way of addressing what's called structural racism. Anyone know what that is? Okay. It's all about resourcing. Okay, so because with Indigenous people have been through so many segregationist policies, we're coming from a lower base than everybody else. Now, it's like a two-horse race, except there's a handicap, there's a gap here we're trying to close. But to close that gap, you need extra support. But here's the thing, both teams are moving. So you need just a little bit more to help close that gap. So this is addressing the structural racism. So this is about providing support for people to give them that leg up. They've still got to be good enough, they've still got to pass, and they've still got to write the things. But it's just a way of addressing these gaps that have caused through Australia, that have been caused by Australian policies and Australian history. It's that simple.
Good answer. Thank you. Why does it take so long to get over these issues of racism and, I suppose, structural imbalance? So let me just read it word for word. Why does it take so long to get over these issues, stolen generation, etc.? I understand the emotional impact behind the stolen generation, but it happened at least 200 years ago. Good question. I tackled that 200 years because I don't think it was 200 years ago. I think it was a bit more recent than 200 years.
1971, 76, the 70s was how long ago it was. The welfare system's been around for 200 years. The 1941 the Aboriginal Act was changed about 3 times to suit the government because they kept taking the kids and had to go before the courts before they took the kids. Stolen generation has been around since in the 70s, but the trauma and the separation, that was an old generation that was stolen. Most of the families, I used to work in the Department of Community Services, is now facts. Most of them children didn't find their way home. That's misplaced kids, they call them. The trauma and intergenerational trauma that's caused from the stolen generation would never, it'd take a long time before people will ever heal from them. A lot of our families, the separation, our parent, with our grandparents was taken and never ever found their way home. Wondering, the lost identity, they're lost. There's that identity, and then lost identity causes drugs and alcohol issues, crisis, dysfunctional, it causes a lot of stuff. That healing needs to take place for changes to come, and I don't think that change will come for a long time. There's the intergenerational trauma it causes on families. Our parents, we weren't taught. When I was born, we lived on the mission. The welfare used to just come. When the welfare used to come, we had at the back what we called a tree of knowledge. Behind that tree was a big ditch, what nobody's seen. When the welfare come, that car come, we was told to run to the tree of knowledge and jump behind that tree of knowledge. I was brought up to survive. I wasn't brought up to do basic stuff. When I'd go to school, we had to make sure that our uniform was fully done. We had to be at school and be home again. That's the kind of stuff I instill with my kids to this day, because if I don't, they still got the welfare system to this day. Even though it's been changed, and the Welfare Act has been changed about 3 or 4 times, it still plays a major part in us Aboriginal people. The welfare system is still there, it's still strong. We still have a high rate of our kids going into foster care, high incarceration rate in jail, and the juvenile justice system, because it's been just handed down and handed down. And the system hasn't changed, but not much of the constitution's been changed. But and us people remember the welfare system. We remember. I make sure that my kids are at school because I'm thinking, oh, okay, they're going to come home. That fear never goes away. Never go away. If my kids are home at 20 past, I start panicking. I drop my kids off at school, and I make sure if I've got to make sure that my kids are spot on. Even though the welfare mightn't go anywhere near it, but that's the fear that was instilled with me. I was taken away because I would never know why I was taken. I'd never ever know. My mum's not alive, don't tell. And that was a long time ago. But and
not 200 years ago.
No. But the welfare system's been around for that long. It's been around for a long time, way before the stolen generation. It was the welfare system was always around.
So do you think Kevin Rudd saying sorry is enough, or do you think more needs to be done?
More needs to be done. Kevin Rudd said sorry, but there was nothing ever followed through with it. There was nothing. I think a treaty. We need a treaty. That's the only way. The constitution needs to be changed. New Zealand had a treaty. Look, the changes over there. I think a treaty will change everything because that'll give us more control over stuff.
So New Zealand had a treaty between the Maori community.
Yep, and the non-Indigenous community. Yep, and it worked. And it worked. They was accepted, which we are still not accepted in some areas. In some areas of India.
We only have 7 more minutes left for today's session, so I'm going to end on 3 more questions, but I'm going to combine them because they're quite similar. What advice do you have for young people when they experience racism? How do they handle it? How did you handle it? And how can young people be more resilient? And do you have any examples of people who aren't Indigenous respecting you for who you are?
Okay, I'll start with the last one. Yes, my wife said yes. She said yes when I asked her to marry her. Okay.
So your wife is not?
No, my wife is Dutch heritage. Dutch and Cornish. If I don't say Cornish, I get in trouble. Yeah, so yeah, mixed race marriage, and that's fine. You love who you love, and you move on with your life. But when it comes to what to do when you see it, best thing you can be is an ally. There's a couple of things you can do. A movement that started in the UK has now spread to the States following Trump's election of people wearing safety pins, just as a sign of saying, oh, it's actually safe to be with me. That's a safety pin. There's other things you can do as well. If you see it happening, you can intervene if it's safe. There's different ways you can do this. You can talk to the victim. So you're basically acting as a distraction and a buffer for the abuse. And you just ask them, how are you okay? Are you feeling all right? Ask them their name and strike up a conversation. The other thing you can do, if it's safe to do so, is film it and report it. If you've got a phone, you've got a camera. A lot of these cases don't get reported or successfully convicted because there's a lack of evidence. You see it happening, film it, report it. And you're in schools, you can also do that.
Have you ever done it? Have you ever filmed and reported a racist comment or a racist incident?
No, not yet. No, it's being 6'2" and male certainly helps.
Yeah.
You can also, if you see it happening and you do want to help, stay with the victim after the event. So once the perpetrator's left, stay with the victim. The victim will then possibly go, after someone calls you things, your body will react and you'll get a flush of adrenaline and possibly shock. So stay with the victim until they actually feel safe or ask to get them water, ask is there someone I can actually call, to a friend to offer you support. Lastly, speak out, even when somebody's not there. If you hear racist talk, speak out, even though there's not someone actually being directly affected. Call it for what it is. It can mean having difficult conversations with friends, but that's the price. If you want to live in a sort of society where that doesn't happen, you need to speak up. There's a thing called tacit. That means silent acceptance, silent agreement. And when you don't speak out, that's what you're doing. You're silently agreeing to this behaviour. But mostly, stay safe.
I say be educated. Be educated on different cultures, accept that different cultures in Australia. Some of the things I teach, I'm just going to read this out. What I taught my kids was, I taught them to feel safe and comfortable in who they are and instill their cultural identity, which empowered them to believe in themselves, that they can achieve anything they can aim for. It saddens me that I have to teach my children and grandchildren to stay strong with racism if allowed, if racism is allowed. Racism will thrive if we allow it. It stops us from participating in education, employment, and sports. I tell them to shine so people can see them in them and not colour. If allowed, racism can cause fear, hatred, low self-esteem, social conflict, mental health issues. I wasn't going to allow my family to go through that. What I teach them is to believe in themselves and their ability. And that's what I say for it doesn't matter what nationality you are. You know, racism will, if we allow racism to take over, racism will. But you get strong and you get to understand, racism, you've got to understand racism, understand our culture, ask an Aboriginal person, are they okay? Because you're not going to offend them, you're not going to offend me, you know. I got the white little non-Indigenous kids calling me Nan or Auntie at our programs, and I love it. We got Aboriginal programs starting. We've got a program going tomorrow as a community engagement, Aboriginal cultural engagement community. We got more non-Indigenous kids. We got Muslims, and we can't give it an Aboriginal name, so we call it One Connection. You know, when you talk about reconciliation, it's there at that group, and I love it. You know, yeah, we've got the Aboriginal flag, but we still come under one, you know, and that's what I want to see one day. Don't be frightened to ask. You know, don't be scared. Look, you've got Aboriginal students in here that probably just wants to be a part of stuff. Ask them how they're going. Because I walk up, I run a young girls program, and I've got 4 non-Indigenous girls with a mate, and 2 little Muslim girls, and they ring me all the time, love you, you know. And it's okay to ask. It's okay to it's okay to not know, you know. But get educated. Find out what makes them tick. Find out. Ask them. You see an Aboriginal painting? What does that mean to you? You know, because everyone, if you listen long enough, has got a story to tell, no matter what race. And racism's there. But if we get stronger and allow racism to take over, I'm telling you, it's gonna keep on going. It's not gonna end. So let's stand up and put a stop to it. You know, because we can. Let's empower ourselves to get to know each other. You know, because you're all sitting here today in the one class. I'm sure you sit in class at school, and there's no racism here. So where is it coming from? Think about it. You know, if we allow it to take over and rule, and it will.
Thanks so much, Scott and Tanya, and thank you to you guys for asking those tough questions and shaping our conversation today. We had so many questions we couldn't get through all of them, but we did touch on racism. We talked about structural inequality and structural racism. Tanya talked us through how much you love Indigenous culture and how deadly the art and the music and the Dreamtime stories are. We talked about stolen generation and whether Kevin Rudd saying sorry was enough and what else might need to happen in order for reconciliation to truly take place. We also talked about the meanest words that people use about Indigenous Australians: nigger, coon, abo, black. And then showcased to you that despite being called these terms, Tanya and Scott have overcome all that and achieved things that they set out to do, things that people never thought that they would achieve just because they were black, because they are black, and proud to be. And we also talked about what you can all do to try and stop racism and what you can do to help the victims of racism. You've been an amazing audience, really great questions, and if you do have any more questions that you didn't get around to asking today, you can go to our website, which is askmeanything.org.au, and send through questions from that site, and I can get them to Tanya and Scott, and we'll get back to you.